There we go. An audible version of Red Prairie Dawn for you folks. How's it going out there, my friends? Sorry about that. I'm not one for excuses, you know what I mean? But honestly, I'm feeling a little under the weather today. And that mute button, she got me. That's great. Well, I can see we've got some folks out there with us. If this is your first time tuning in, we see some regular folks over here in the chat. Johnny, Lewis, Marion. Hey to all of you out there. You're my buds. You're my pals. It's great to see you. But if it's your first time on the stream, my name's Hayes Griffin. Thanks for finding your way to my channel. This is the Mindful Music Maker live stream, where I generally try to keep things on topic with mindfulness and music practices, but I'm open to other types of discussion too, as long as it's music and guitar and mandolin and whatever related. So, yeah, but for those of you that aren't familiar with mindfulness, we're simply just talking about how to keep ourselves present and in the moment and kind of take control of our minds back from the evil, what do I want to say, attention diminishing social media type platforms like the one I'm currently speaking to you on right now. Oh man, I think that deserves a drink of water. Well, I'm not gonna talk too much right now. Let's just go ahead and dive into our meditation. I'm kind of feeling a bit of a meditation today, since I'm like I said, my head's a little cloudy. For those of you that don't follow me on social media, first off, follow me on social media. I don't spam you with a bunch of like my life is better than yours stuff or anything like that. But it's mostly just like gig related or something. And last night we played a gig with one of my favorite guitar players of all time named David Greer. If you're not familiar with David Greer, he is, in my opinion, the top of the heap in terms of flat pick acoustic guitar players out there. He's who I stole a lot of my technique and ideas from. So we got to do like a co-bill with him last night, and that was really fun. But I also played 2 gigs yesterday, that one and one before, and had 3 hours of sleep the night before, had about 4 hours of sleep last night, and I'm feeling like I need a meditation right now. I don't know about you folks, but I definitely need it. So I'm going to turn this timer on. If you haven't joined us on the stream before, the deal is we're doing mindfulness meditation kind of in the, if you're familiar with like Tibetan Buddhist traditions like shamatha meditation. We're just going to focus on an anchor and kind of try and bring our minds to the present moment with that. I think it's a good way to begin the discussion for the day. Just kind of remain mindful, get inside of our bodies, get inside of the here and now. So let's go ahead and do that. We're going to use our breath as an anchor so you can count out breaths. And before that, we're going to get into our meditation posture. So imagine a string kind of in the crown of your head, like right at the back top part. And then imagine someone is gently lifting that string toward the ceiling. What that's going to do is pull your shoulders back, tuck your chin a little bit. Take a few deep breaths. Make sure that lumbar curve is in your back, that your sits bones are firmly rooted. Let's go ahead and get mindful, y'all. Feel free to put your instrument on too. I like to meditate with my instrument in my hands just to kind of take the stress away from the guitar. Focus on that feeling of the breath exiting your nostrils. If your mind wanders to any thoughts from the day or any stressful things, don't actively try to tamp them down. Just sit with them, breathe into them. feel tension creep into your body anywhere. See if you can put your mind's eye on that place and breathe into that too. If your mind wanders, just come back to the breath. No judgment. Be gentle with yourself. It's the whole point of this exercise. Like I've said before, I feel like harmonics. You know, I don't have my singing bowl here to clang for you folks, but I think harmonics on the guitar are a good way to get out of that. Oh, hey there, we've got Mary Rose with us. Thanks for giving us a thumbs up there. Alrighty, I like to do this. Let's rate our scales, or rate ourselves on a scale from 1 to 10. How do you feel like you did on that meditation? I'm actually going to give myself kind of a 7 today. I needed that meditation. I think I did a good job just because I needed it. Yeah, and Marion's at a 7. That's good, Marion. One thing I'll ask Marion, like, what you know, like, rating our meditations is probably not like the like ultimate goal of a meditation, right? You know, the meditation, we've talked about this before. the kind of benefits of meditation come from sustained daily practice, right? So doing it a little bit every day, and then kind of letting that carve out a new path inside of your neural network. But I think checking in and being mindful of how you did on the meditation that day is good, you know. Johnny says 5. That's great. Yeah. Dylan says about a 7 too. That's great, man. I feel like everyone's doing great out there then. If as long as you're not a 1, you know, a 1 means you probably didn't even like count one breath, right? But I would like it, now that you've kind of rated yourself, in a few words, like 1 or 2 sentences, what made you give yourself that number? You know, what kind of factors played into that rating? And as you're typing that, I'll explain mine. For me, I count, you know, I give myself positive points for noticing when my mind wanders and then coming back before I can go down the rabbit hole of that thought. You know, that almost boosts my meditation score. Like deviating from the breath and coming back is like to me a better kind of score than almost just sitting there and focusing on the breath, because I think in that moment you're doing almost like a mindfulness curl, you know what I mean? It's like one rep, like, oh yeah, I went away, but whoosh, my mind was strong enough to bring me back. Nice. Johnny says lots of distractions in the house right now. 5-year-old, LOL. That's great. Jacob says a 6. That's a good number, buddy. Yeah, I like that. That's funny that you should say that too about the 5-year-old, Johnny, because like this is something that honestly my meditation coach used to say this whenever I would tell him that I would get distracted by external noises or things around me, or like my wife walking upstairs while I'm, you know, here in my basement like making videos or something. He would be like, well, you know, you need to utilize that for your mindfulness. They're your teacher in that moment. And I'm like, like, yes, I know you're totally right, but that like makes me even angrier. Yeah, because it's like the whole point of mindfulness is, right, to be able to kind of like control your mind and kind of, I don't want to say block those things out, but almost not be emotionally or mentally affected by the things that are happening around you, you know? So yeah, that's, I don't know, just kind of a funny thing. Nice. Jacob says busy house, but able to get quiet for a little bit. That's great. And Marion, I was able to turn off the emotions of the day and get re-centered. Yeah, that's awesome. That's funny, because that's kind of like what I wanted to talk about a little bit. Yeah, Johnny says I hope to become Wim Hof one day. Yeah, that's great, man. Keeping myself on the breath counts is getting better. I count out 2 measures of 4 and watch the music passing by as I breathe in time with the clicks in the room. Yeah, that's great, man. I like that. This is almost what I was getting at a minute ago. My meditation coach would say, like, you know, use the sounds around you as like a tool for the meditation, not so much like a distraction from the meditation, right? Because like, to take Johnny's example, you know, like having a 5-year-old running around and making noises and doing 5-year-old things, you know, that is, what better thing to keep you in the moment, right, than listening to those noises. Now, it's keeping you from focusing on the thing that you want to be focusing on, right? But you know, it can still be a useful tool that way. And I know Jacob's out there too. He's got a little one that might be providing some extra teaching for him. Lewis says clocks. Yeah, I kind of got you there, man. And that's what I was going to say. We have a this timer that stays on. It's like a nighttime, like at 8 p.m. it like turns on a light, but it kind of makes soft clicks in the background. You know, it's like a little dial timer thing. I can usually hear that when I'm meditating, and I kind of use that. It's it would be like slow 16th notes. I kind of hear it like, you know, and just like the breath, it's a regular rhythmic thing, right? Like Lewis was talking about. So that makes it easy to kind of use that as like an entry point into the now. You know, I know we're starting to sound like kind of ethereal and whatever now, but that's what this whole stream is about, is like talking about these techniques that can just bring you into the moment. I'm really interested to, Lewis, I need to meet your, you know, wife there someday too, because what he said was she had an 8, and she kind of does some mindfulness coaching and stuff. I would love to have her perspective. Maybe we should set up. I have a way to get someone into my stream via Skype, so we'll have to check that out someday. I kind of got lost on my thought. There was one comment that was going to bring me into the session today. Oh yeah, Marian's. She said, I was able to turn off the emotions of the day and get recentered. And that's like, this isn't really like the main topic of discussion for today, but I thought this was like a really cool book. I don't know, this is almost like the Hayes Griffin like book club / meditation session / let's talk about music and how to get better session, whatever, you know. But like if you guys don't know Thich Nhat Hanh, I love the books that he's written, and this is one that I've really been into lately. A lot of the Thich Nhat Hanh books are just kind of like these really digestible, easily readable books, you know. Like half of them just have like little drawings and stuff on the pages with a few lines of text. But this one, How to Fight, I was like, oh yeah, that's great. I'm totally getting this book, because it's got to be about how to, like, you know, best your opponents in a like, you know, battle of wits or something like that. So I ordered the book, and it's like, I love the title of the book because it's total clickbait, and Thich Nhat Hanh is great about that stuff. He's really good with the, you know, kind of like the written word to kind of rope you in, and then pretty much just tell you the same stuff that you like probably have already heard from someone else, but in a, you know, a interesting clickbaity kind of way. And the book is essentially about how to use meditation, compassion meditation, which we kind of talked about last week and maybe a little bit the week before, where you're kind of like expressing care for yourself internally or care for other beings while you're meditating in order to kind of cultivate generosity and kindness and these kind of things. And I thought this book was great. So it's essentially like how not to fight, and how not to fight with yourself or others, but like how to fight. I thought that was hilarious, you know? Yeah. I love it. Jacob and Johnny are having a little discussion, a sidebar here about yeah, 2.5-year-olds versus 5-year-olds. This is great. Oh man, this is good. Maybe we can form a spin-off like dad support group, you know, with you two guys or something like that. That's awesome. But to get back to this Thich Nhat Hanh thing, there's some cool stuff in here that I think a lot of us could you know, learn from. And there's a little page. I'm not going to read this page, you know, for fear of like getting slapped with copyright laws and, you know, all that kind of stuff. But the title of the page is Listening to Ourselves. And I think listening to ourselves is kind of like the first step to being able to master this urge to fight. You know what I mean? When we get frustrated with things or say that there are distractions in the room, you want to like fight them. You want to control those things in the external space and bring them to what you desire at that moment in time. But that's not how life works oftentimes, right? And what's left over in those moments of friction and realization like that, like Marian said, she had to kind of like put her emotions away for the day, or she was able to put her emotions away for the day and get into the meditation. And that's kind of what these practices are centered on, like listening to yourself, developing techniques to actually hear your internal monologue and like what the true frustration is. Because it's rarely the frustration is rarely what the voice inside of your head is saying or wanting, you know what I mean? The frustration is usually something a little deeper than that. And then the same thing with listening to others. There's kind of a page on that in this book, you know, how to listen compassionately and without judgment and without jumping in and like cutting people off and letting your emotions steer the conversation. I think these are really great techniques to learn, and the only reason I bring it up is because this is the entire reason. This little book and the premise of it is the entire reason that I got into mindfulness and meditation. Obviously, like I've said, it's helped my musical career and everything, but it was an emotional thing first. It was honestly me not being able to control the anger and resentment that I would feel at not being able to control my immediate environment. So as far as like listening to yourself and listening to others, like what are techniques for that? And this is one that they say, like, give me a thumbs up in the chat box if you were ever told this as a child, right? Like when you get angry about something, it's like, oh, just take a deep breath, Thumbs up if you were ever given that kind of like succinct, seemingly easy advice or whatever from an adult as a child. Just, oh, take a breath, it's no big deal. And the thing about that is, I'm pretty sure that everyone out there watching this can give me a thumbs up on that one right now. The thing about that is, like, there is some truth to that. When you feel anger or intense emotions come up and you want to kind of listen to yourself, like the true, deeper meaning behind that internal monologue, like the thing that you need to do is not just take a breath, take multiple breaths and focus on the feeling of that emotion. This is something that I really appreciated about kind of the Buddhist meditation techniques that I was learning from my buddy Lama Adam Berner. I would suggest if anybody's really looking to get into meditation and doesn't want to just listen to my kind of amateur ramblings on YouTube, give Adam a shout, because he is a Buddhist Lama. He's here in Columbus, Ohio. I'm not a Buddhist or anything, but I really appreciate his teachings and his insight into this matter. And Adam has really helped me a lot. You can look him up online. LamaAdam.com, I think, is his website. And you can schedule a meeting with him. They don't cost anything because that's not how Buddhists work, but you can obviously donate money to him if you got some value out of the session. But he really kind of unlocked this principle of listening to yourself and breathing into the emotion and all that kind of stuff. So the thing that you can do in this moment is not take a single breath or two breaths, but kind of go into a mini meditation. Whenever you feel anger or frustration or sadness start to rise, let the emotion come, but breathe into it, was kind of his advice. And feel the emotion and kind of just sit with that for a minute, meditate on that. And the thing that you'll often discover is that the emotion will either temper or dissipate entirely. It kind of evolves into something else. The thing that I discovered when I would get angry is kind of like the anger was still there, but it wasn't an emotional adrenal response anymore. It turned into almost like a moment of clarity. By breathing into it for 10 or 15 or 20 breaths, you start to realize, if you're being mindful about it, why you're angry in the first place. A lot of people in the field of like psychology or any of these things will talk about anger as like a boundary crossing emotion, meaning that someone like crossed a boundary for you, whether that was like stated or not, but it's an internal boundary in your mind and you didn't want them to do that, so that's why you're angry, right? So if you take the example of anger and you breathe into the emotion and you can allow it to evolve into this kind of peace and calmness, then you can honestly just move on to the logical reasoning of, okay, why was I angry that this boundary was crossed? Did this person know about the boundary? You can start to do some of that like stuff that we talked about from the Chatter book a couple weeks ago, where like you do these distancing techniques, they call them. So put yourself in the other person's shoes. But if that emotion is there in the first place, that anger, I found, like, I mean, give me an amen, brother, out there or whatever. If you have not been able to engage with someone in a meaningful conversation when you're angry, it's because you were still in that adrenal emotional response. We oftentimes have to go away for a while. This is what, I noticed this with myself all the time. I would get angry about something. I would need to go away for a half hour, kind of let my gears wind down a little bit, and then come back and I could have a conversation about it or process what made me angry. But if you use this breathing technique and this loving compassion technique that Thich Nhat Hanh talks about in How to Fight, or that, Tibetan Buddhists talk about really in every Dharma text that they have, you can get through that process a heck of a lot quicker. And it honestly just feels better, you know? I just like, oh, Johnny says in the chat, hitting very close to home, Hayes. Yeah, sorry if it's too close to home, dude. But I swear, like, hopefully we can at least just relate on this, man, right? Because, I mean, guitar used to do this for me. Like, something as simple and joyful as playing the guitar. Like, you know, I've talked to some of my students who are even here in the chat right now who get frustrated, right, with their progress and ability to play music on their chosen instrument. And it's what leads us to write, like, well, I'm just going to give this up. I just hate it. You know what I mean? Like, I can't do what I want to do. But if you can, like, breathe into that moment and then logically process, like, what's actually causing you the frustration, then that really is what unlocks the steps forward. And it's actually this, I'm starting to figure out that, like, the anger is the kind of key forward, you know. The anger is the key to progress in all of these things, because we're all going to get angry. Even, like, you know, enlightened beings in like Buddhism and stuff like that, you know, like right up to the point that they get enlightened, they're on this path, and anger is still there. They just don't express it outwardly, like, unfortunately, we're kind of taught to by example in our culture and stuff like that. Because, like, there's really no need, you know, at least I'm starting to find for myself, there's no need to even, like, verbally express the anger anymore, or do whatever, you know, like even a, you know, like making a sound or any of that kind of thing. If you're just like, breathe into it 5 or 6 times, it's not like you're stuffing the anger down. You're just kind of processing it, you know? You're giving your body oxygen, you know? The thing that happens when you have an adrenal response is that your heart starts to beat faster, so you need more blood pumped to your organs and all that kind of stuff. So if you give yourself more oxygen, that adrenal response will kind of go away quicker and lead you to that logical outcome, this ability to process. Yeah. I'm looking at the chat here too. Johnny says helpful. Lewis says, as with many things, using these breathing techniques becomes easier the more times we use them. Same as our practicing and playing. Lewis said it right there, people. And Johnny, I like this. I think there's a lot of power in stoicism. Definitely something I need to work on. Yeah, oh my God, Lewis, Seneca is the man. Holy smokes. I wish my wife was down here. I don't know if I told you folks, but she studied classics. She's a PhD in Latin and, you know, all this kind of crazy stuff. So she's the one that keeps me, like, whenever I start, we'll find like a new philosophical thread, I'm like, oh my God, I love this thing. And she's like, yeah, the Greeks, Seneca, blah, blah, blah. You know, she talks about it and I'm just like, well, I'm an idiot. I thought I found something new. Oh, that's great. So I know I'm rambling and ranting a lot about this process, but really what I want to say to, like, summarize this conversation is that, once again, the breath is not just like a mindfulness technique to, like, sit down and have a seated meditation in a very calm, like controlled environment. This breathing technique is really powerful in that it can help you in the moment of a challenging kind of scenario, you know? And I know this is a music-related stream, but I know we all have, like, anger out there, right? Whether it's directed at your guitar or anyone else or yourself. So the thing that I would suggest for you to do, step 1, if you find yourself getting frustrated or angry or wanting to fight something, wanting to kind of, you know, pull something to your ideal version of reality as opposed to living with the reality that is, step 1, find your anchor. Find the breath. Get what I want to say, like that feeling of the breath back in the nostrils. That's step 1. Step 2 is breathe into the emotion. Pema Chodron, who's like a Buddhist lama that I've been kind of reading some of her stuff, she says breathe into the emotion, which just means, like, find that anger and just sit with it and breathe with it. Live with the anger for a minute. You know what I mean? Don't try and express that anger toward a person or an object or anything like that. Live with it. Touch it internally. You know what I mean? Sit with it. So that's step 2. And then step 3 is do some version of this like loving compassion meditation that like Buddhists would call it. So either find once your emotion starts to quiet, if you can feel that anger evolve into something that's beyond just like sheer rage and tension in your body, if you can feel your shoulders relax a little bit, if you can feel that feeling in the pit of your stomach go away, the next step is to go into sort of some kind of loving compassion meditation where you're either kind of comforting yourself and logically processing that anger boundary issue, or putting yourself in that other person's shoes and starting to empathize with them. It's like, well, maybe they didn't know that they were crossing a boundary, you know? Or maybe this thing is just, you know, a couple pieces of wood glued together with metal stretched across it, and I shouldn't really be that angry at it because like it's a human invention and I'm sitting here trying to play a piece of music and it's supposed to be fun. You know what I mean? Typing hazard. Most definitely have anger directed at bill collectors. That's great. That one, you know, yeah, I can understand that one. Yeah, it's, I think, and the thing that they talk about too, you know, to kind of tie this all together is that like when you're doing this loving compassion meditation, maybe don't start with like, you know, the thing that makes you the most angry. You know, so like don't beat yourself up if you're like in the middle of a bill collector moment and you can't master this technique. Maybe start with something a little lower and slower, you know what I mean? Like yeah, not being able to nail that G run in the right spot or something like that, you know? But yeah, bill collectors, that's like level 8 kind of Zen master, you know what I mean? Oh, that's perfect. That's great, gang. Well, you know what I feel like doing, folks? That's my little spiel for tonight. I just wanted to talk about anger and processing it and stuff. I haven't really been feeling a lot of anger lately, and I guess that was one thing I wanted to say here too. The more that you do this stuff, I had a little example for this. The more that you do this stuff, the more just kind of even keel you become in everything in your life. It's just like you're like water. You bend with everything, you know, that kind of comes at you. And there was an example, this band that I just started playing with a few months ago in Columbus. A lot of you on the stream know this. This band that I started playing with, the first gig that we ever had, or I ever had with them, my car got stolen. And that was the first time anything like that had ever happened to me, you know what I mean? And Hayes 5 years ago would have, like, you know, smashed his guitar and, like, you know, done whatever. But in that moment, like, I had this realization, and you feel that panic, right? Like that adrenal response, the shoulders go into your ears, and I was just like, but I honestly remember this clear as day. In that moment when I had this realization, I started like breathing. And it just as quick as that went away. And now this is after a year or a year and a half really of like concentrated study on this kind of technique and this topic, which once again doesn't make me an expert on it, but I have seen the results. And to this day, like that happened, what, like early July or late June? It was late June, right before I went to Sweden. Late June, I still haven't once been like angry at the people that did it, the kids that did it, I should say, because it's a Hyundai. You know, if you own a Hyundai or a Kia that was made before like 2022, by the way, get an anti-theft device, like a club or something like that. But I can't be angry at these kids, you know. It's not worth it to me. I processed that flash of anger in the moment. It was like, well, my car was taken away. My iPod that I've had since I was a freshman in college got stolen with a bunch of my favorite music on it. And that was it. You know what I mean? Nobody was hurt. The car was recovered a few days later. No big deal, you know? And I'm not saying, you know, you shouldn't be angry if you get your car stolen or anything like that, but that's also, you know, why are we angry? And what does the anger serve us in that moment, you know? Yeah, Lewis says, if someone steals my Jeep, I just hope my Weber Mandolin isn't in it. I can't get a new Jeep. This is the number, so like, tangent right now. Never leave an instrument in your car, even for a second. Like I always, if I park at a gas station and I'm on my way home for a gig, I pop the trunk or go into the back seat wherever my mandolin is. I grab the mandolin, I look like a doofus and walk into the store and hold my mandolin on my shoulder and buy my cup of coffee and my chips or whatever I'm getting, and then walk back out to the car. And I'm like so glad that my mandolin and my guitar were not in the car when it was stolen. So yeah, definitely never leave your instrument in a car anywhere. But yeah, man, cars can be replaced, right? That's the whole point of this kind of like tangent here or whatever. The thing is, like, no serious harm was done to anyone, so why waste your adrenaline raging and doing all that kind of stuff, you know? It honestly allowed me to enjoy the rest of the night. Like, I went back to the gig where my buddies were still loading out. We drank another beer and had some yucks over it, and then my buddy Jacob, who's on this thread right now, came and got us, you know what I mean? So yeah, it's all good. That being said, folks, I feel like playing a little bit of music just because I'm in a playing mood today, and then I'm probably going to end the stream. But if you have any questions or any other tangents or topics you want to talk about, just toss them into the chat while I play this next tune, and we'll have a good time. What's a good one? Let's see. Looking at my fiddle tunes list here. I liked Red Prairie Dawn. That was a good vibe. I want to find another Red Prairie Dawn like tune, you know? What's a good one? Oh yeah, here we go. Daily's Real. I love this tune. If you guys haven't heard that Kenny Baker Plays Bill Monroe album, that's a good one. It's got Daily's Real on it. I kind of stole my version of it from Brian Sutton, but it's a good tune in the key of B flat. Cool, I remember it. Let's do this. There we go. I love that tune. Pretty tune. I'm kind of like, I've been, a lot of you that have followed my journey over the last year or so know that I've been like working on fast technique and stuff like that. Because I kind of unlocked the secret finally after like 25 years to like getting my right hand to work. And now I don't want to play fast anymore. I'm just like, can you give me like a medium tempo fiddle tune so I can play some cool Kenny Smith floaty licks or something like that? That's all I want in the world. Looks like we got some stuff from Johnny. I knew Johnny would come through. So what do we got? Your tip about singing fills and tags to figure out the timing that you suggested has been really helpful, and I've already made some good progress. Thank you so much. Oh, awesome, dude. That's great. Yeah. If you can sing it, you can play it, right? Like one of my teachers used to say that all the time. McGann was kind of into this thing, and then Jamie Aebersold, the guy that made all those like jazz backing tracks, he's really into that thing. So I'm glad that worked, man. That's great. I have a quick question for you. How do you approach teaching music to kids? Nice. My son, 5, loves music and is constantly surrounded by it. I bought him a 3-string, Logue or Loog guitar. I've seen those before. But I don't know where to start with teaching him theory. How do you approach music education with kids at that age? That's an interesting thing, this music theory deal. I feel like with young kids, I'm not like a early childhood like education specialist, but I have taught a number of like, what would I say, like 6 and under kind of kids. The main thing that I think we need to keep as like number 1 on the list is like keep them interested in the music. So I always thought it was cool to kind of like, rhythm is a really good place to start, in terms of how to teach music theory, like the timing aspect, because at the same time, like your son, he can count right now and do all of that stuff and do simple math and all those kind of things. So I think the rhythmic aspect of music theory is really good. So getting them to like count along with the beats, of like whatever tune, and do some crazy stuff, like when you're sitting around listening to music, like put on Money by Pink Floyd or something, you know what I mean? And like count out 7 and show them how 7/4 works or something like that, Another thing that I would do with rhythm is do like simple strumming patterns with simple chords in order to kind of like engage that the simple mathematical aspect of things. So like I always used to, even though a lot of kids maybe these days don't know the song, I always used to play that song, What I Like About You, because it's like it uses like E, A, and D. And if your son doesn't know those chords, that might be a good place to start. Like teach him these 3 chords. And what I would always do with that song, What I Like About You, is like just get him to strum the chord on the appropriate beat where it comes in. Don't worry about the rest of the rhythm. So it's like, because that kind of helps them count the rhythm in between it, right? Like 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, right? There's a syncopated beat there. That's a good opportunity to talk about stuff like that. And then you can build in the rhythm, the real rhythm from there. I think the danger that we run with like teaching kids music early on is like trying to get them, it's like, well, you can either teach them Mary Had a Little Lamb and then they're going to be bored out of their minds or whatever, right? Or you can like try and teach them this really complex, cool tune that you love, but it might be too much for them to bite off at that given point in time, so it's going to frustrate them and they're going to get like disinterested in it. But I think there's like a happy medium there for like early childhood music education where you can find a tune that your son likes and then work out the chords to it, or preferably find a tune with like 1 or 2 chords in it, you know what I mean, and then do a simple rhythm kind of thing. And that was often, I had a kid when I was teaching up in Grand Rapids there. I had him for 2 years. And we kind of started with the approach that I'm talking about. And by the end, he was just so jacked that he could play along with some of the tunes that he loved that he just kind of went home and got on the internet and filled in the gaps. You know what I mean? So it's like if you give him like a foothold in the world of music, because like, I'm sure your son has already figured out like how to unlock your phone and get on YouTube and all that kind of stuff, because I know everyone else's kids do that too. but he can like discover really, the world of music by just giving him a foothold and letting him explore the rest of the path. Yeah, Lewis says two chord wonders are my favorites. Me too, buddy. Oh, nice. Johnny's got a comment here. Thank you for the thoughtful response, Hayes. Great advice. Appreciate you, buddy. Last thing I'm going to say is that we need some mindful music merch. Yes. Yeah, man. So Johnny says my bland arpeggio shirts are hilarious. For those of you that have been keeping up with me on, I put out a bunch of YouTube shorts, and by a bunch I mean one a week, but for me that's a bunch. And there was one where I don't know, I get goofy in all of them and act like a dork. So I think I'm going to have some Mindful Music Maker merch, though, I need to grab some. Here's what I'll do. Oh, nice. I've never used this. Yeah. Nice. I'm going to have to figure that out for next time. But we have a poll function on here. Ooh, guitar with a mind's eye headstock. I like that, man. That's amazing. Yeah. I'll give Johnny cred on that one too, man. Yeah, I would seriously be all about some Mindful Music Maker merch. The thing that this is weird to even say right now, but I'm struggling with this. I haven't reached 4,000 hours of watch time on YouTube, which means that like when that happens, I can like quote monetize my channel, and I forget how many subscribers I have to hit before I can have a merch shelf below the video. But that being said, I do have a Teespring account. It's like a drop shipping service, where you guys can go order t-shirts and they just make them custom order and send one to you. So I do have a Teespring account. So if I get some simple logos mocked up here, I think we can definitely get some merch hooked up really quick for you guys if you want. So I'll work on Mindful Music Maker stuff. This is honestly, I need to get someone to even design a logo. I just put that stupid slide together at the beginning myself. So Johnny says, do it. I want it. I love it, man. Yeah. I think MMM is kind of like the logo. Like I'm going to have a monogram for it, so we can do a guitar headstock with a mind's eye in it. I really like that one, man. That's a sweet idea. But if you guys have any other ideas, feel free to reach out to me at hayesguitar@gmail.com, HAYESGUITAR@gmail.com. Or just leave a comment here on the stream with like ideas that you would like to see for merch. Teespring is really cool because like if I have a logo design, they can do hats, sweatshirts, stickers, mugs, any of that kind of stuff too. So if we get a good design or two going, then you guys can pretty much have whatever you want if you're into that kind of thing. Awesome idea, Johnny. Thanks for. I need to hire Johnny as my like marketing man here. Look at this, All right, gang. Well, I think I'm going to leave you there for the evening. I haven't eaten dinner yet, and I haven't hugged my wife since she come home from work yet, so I'm going to go do both of those things right now. But thank you so much for joining us for the Mindful Music Maker stream. This is honestly turning into like the highlight of my week now. I love spending this time with you. And as you can see, we've been on here 56 minutes. I said 30-minute streams, so clearly folks are into it, and I'm happy to stick around. Lewis says Johnny could cost us a fortune. Hey man, that's the danger of just letting anyone into these streams, right? Marion says thanks. Yeah, thank you, Marion. Seriously, thanks to all of you guys for showing up. This is great, and I love just sharing these concepts and chatting with you guys. It really enriches my life, and I hope it's something valuable for you too. But thanks again, folks. This has been a great Mindful Music Maker stream. We'll see you this time next week. Same place, same time. All right, take it easy.